Welcome to Beyond Kalidasia, the official internet television show of Legends of Kalidasia. I'm Jason, the creator of the game. In just a few moments, we'll get to talking about fighter tactics in Legends of Kalidasia, but first, a few quick news items. The first news item for the day is that the Eragul and Surakari fleet packs have been sent to the publisher, so we are on target for a release date of October 18th, 2010 for both of those sets. So the second news story of the day is what I got here in front of me. It's a follow-up to what we talked about last time, which were the prototype figures. Here in front of me, I've actually got most of the greens that'll be used to manufacture the figures. Yeah, I know they're white, but green is a terminology that refers to a figure or a model that's going to be used to basically create the master molds and then the production molds for actually mass-producing the figures. It actually comes from the fact that a lot of older figures were sculpted using green stuff, whereas these are made using a 3D printing technology. So for example, let's take a look here. We have the Surakari Destroyer, and here's the Surakari Destroyer's guns. So you get an idea of probably about how big they are compared to, say, here's a battlecruiser token. Now, not all of the greens are here in front of me. I got about 2/3 of the complete set. There were a few problems with both the Surakari frigate design, which I kind of screwed up some of the guns, that's my fault, as well as some of the other gun sprues for pretty much every other ship. I kind of screwed up a few things there too. Oops. So, like I said, I don't have them all in front of me, but we're going to get the rest of them in hopefully this week and get them shipped off to the manufacturer. We're still looking at, by the end of the year, at least getting all the warships out in a metal figure line. So let's talk fighter tactics in Legends of Kalidasia, and let's start with the very basics here. You've got one Surakari Interceptor facing off against one Eragul Hunter. And let's look at the basics of probability. The Surakari Interceptor is going to hit on a 4+, while the Eragul Hunter is going to hit on a 5+ with a reroll. So what this translates to then is a 0.5 probability of success, or 50%. And the Eragul Hunter, if you do the math, it'd be 0.33 plus 0.33 minus 0.11, and that results in a 0.55 chance of success, or a 55% chance of success. Which here, if you look straight up at the math, it looks like the Eragul Hunter has a little bit better chance of damaging the Interceptor than the Interceptor has of damaging the Eragul Hunter. Now, of course, over the course of a long-term battle, this extra 5% may result in, if you do the math, probably like 5 more hits overall throughout the entire battle. However, though, the Surakari player often deploys more fighters because they have both the Interceptors and the Scouts out there, and also the ship-mounted anti-aircraft weapons of the Surakari are actually more powerful, so that kind of helps balance out this little bit of discrepancy right here. But the main point of actually looking at the math here is simply to say that if you have one fighter versus one fighter, it's basically a total crapshoot of who's going to win that fight. Now also then, if we take that extension here, and say we got 4 Eragul Hunters over here, and they're facing off against 4 Surakari Interceptors. What this basically means for you is, even in this case now, even though it's 4 on 4, it's still pretty much a total random crapshoot of who's going to win, because it's pretty much equal probabilities on either side of who's going to hit each other. So, the question comes in now, how do you maximize your damage to the enemy while minimizing the threat to your fighters? And this is how you're going to do it. There's several tactics you can do. Offensively, anyway. One is think of your fighter as a center point here with a threat circle around it. Because what you find is most fighter weapons have a range of about 6 inches. In fact, all fighter weapons that are mounted on the fighters have a range of 6 inches. And some of the anti-aircraft weapons mounted on, say, the frigates, for example, they have a range of about 6 inches as well. Some of the bigger ships, like destroyers and battlecruisers, carry 18 to 30-inch range anti-fighter weapons. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So you should think of your fighters as the center point of a circle with about a 6-inch radius circle all around it. So if you were to say, so we'll just kind of approximate about 6 inches out. So this circle here then is what we're going to call the threat circle of the fighter. Anywhere, if there's an enemy unit anywhere within this threat circle, it can be hit. And also this enemy fighter over here then has a 6-inch circle as well. So you're within his threat circle, so you can be shot as well. So what you need to do then essentially is pick your target of whoever it is you're going to fire at and overlap as many of your threat circles on that target as possible without exposing your own fighters to the enemy threat circle. So let's look at this simple scenario here. You've got an Eragul frigate and you've got a pair of Eragul hunters escorting it just like that, one in the front, one in the back. Now this hunter in the back here, we'll say its threat circle extends to right about here approximately. It's a little bit short, but whatever, it's approximately. Then therefore, the Air-Ghoul frigate's threat circle extends to right around here, and the Hunter in the very front extends to right around here. Now, of course, you want to go ahead and start destroying these fighters. However, if you run in and drop your Surikari interceptors in here inside the innermost threat circle, you've got all three of these guys firing at you, and you've got three of them firing back. It basically comes down to a bit of a crapshoot. Where if you go to the threat circle here, where it only exposes your Surikari interceptors to the Hunter in the front and the Air-Ghoul frigate, now you've taken out the back guy out of the equation, but the problem is, from this range here, the Surikari interceptors can't actually hurt the Air-Ghoul frigate. They've got to be up close to do that. So at this point now, you can maybe take out this fighter in front of you, but the Air-Ghoul frigate gets to fire back and take out one of your fighters as well, pretty much. So therefore, what you want to do is position your fighters such that all of their threat circles are now overlapping this front fighter, but at the same time, the Air-Ghoul frigate can't shoot at your Surikari interceptors. So if you do the math here, you've got 6 shots with a 0.5 chance probability of hit, meaning you're probably going to do 3 points of damage to the Air-Ghoul frigate, 3 points of damage to the Air-Ghoul hunter and take that out. Well, the Air-Ghoul hunter may, if it's lucky, do 1 point of damage to your Surikari interceptors. Obviously, it's a huge advantage for you. So first, let's actually talk about how do you defend your own capital ships from that type of attack. So in this setup here I've got now, we're going to assume that the center of your fleet is kind of being pointed at by this arrow. So the center of your fleet, the center of your battle line is somewhere down here. So on the very outside edge of the battle line is this battlecruiser right here. Which a problem you're going to run into, let's say if I had some Surikari interceptors come in and attack it, come from the outside and attack it, granted you've got the battlecruiser firing at it, and you've got the destroyer firing at it, the Air-Ghoul frigate here, its threat circle only extends to right about here, so therefore this Air-Ghoul frigate can't join the fight, and you're basically wasting its firepower and not helping out your battlecruiser at all. So what you want to do with Air-Ghoul frigates, or frigates in general, because they generally have short-range anti-fighter weapons, you want to make sure they stick close to the units they want to protect. Therefore, in this case now, if fighters came in and attacked, did precision attacks against either one of these two capital ships, they're now within the threat range of the Air-Ghoul frigate, and you've got the full support of this Air-Ghoul frigate to help out your battlecruiser, make it survive longer, and take more enemy fighters down in the process. Now, if you really get clever, and you can try to get the Air-Ghoul frigate as close as you can to the ship. We'll say right there. We'll use the destroyer as an example. So if you can get this Air-Ghoul frigate, or any capital ship for that matter, really close together like this, not only does this allow them to kind of group their guns together for defense, but also limits the number of fighters which can engage them in precision attacks. Because simply put, I can say 2 on that side. I could do 1 Surikari interceptor there, 1 up over here in the front of the destroyer. Now, normally, if this frigate was not here, let me just move down a little bit and make it a little easier to see. So now, normally, if this frigate was not here, I could get 2 more Surikari interceptors and get 2 more precision attacks against that destroyer. But by having this destroyer close enough to where the distance between these 2 ships is less than 20 millimeters, which is the thickness, or which is the width of the fighter base, it basically becomes impossible for me to engage 2 more fighters against this destroyer, and therefore you're already reducing the number of precision attacks against it and giving it longer survival times. In addition, of course, having the fact that you've now got both their guns supporting this destroyer. So there's another defensive strategy you can use to protect your capital ships. Now, how do you protect your fighters? That's the question. What you want to do is try to group your fighters inside formations of capital ships. So for example, here we've got an Air-Ghoul destroyer and an Air-Ghoul frigate set up here. If you were to have your hunters here on the outside of the Air-Ghoul frigate, it would be pretty easy for me to bring some interceptors in here and get positioned such that I go ahead and fire at them and blow them up, and the Air-Ghoul frigate can't fire back. However, if we were to go ahead and let's move these hunters to be between these 2 capital ships, not only now are these 2 fighters taking up spots for other enemy fighters to come in and do precision attacks, so if I want to get in there and get a situation where I try to pick them off with minimum enemy fire, it becomes a lot more difficult to do that. It's not impossible to do it, but it becomes a lot more difficult, and basically this kind of sweet spot right here, we'll say, where I can basically maximize my firepower and minimizing your threat circle, becomes a heck of a lot smaller, where fewer and fewer fighters can sit in there. So keep that in mind when you're trying to protect your fighters. It's especially useful for the Air-Ghoul when it comes to their attack cruisers. Well, there you go. That's a quick overview of fighter tactics in Legends of Kalidasia. For more information about the game, to buy a copy, or to try out our completely free starter kit, head on over to the game's website at kalidasia.com. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for our mailing list so you can get information about new product releases like our figures. So with that, once again, I'm Jason. Thanks for watching.